Michelle here from J.A.M's Adventures. So I told you guys about a couple weeks ago I wanted to do some conspiracy theory videos. So I am going to be pre-recording them, just so you have a heads up. Because my Thursdays become very busy with cleaning and all that fun stuff and trying to get ready for work the next day. So the first person that I'm going to speak of is going to be Nero, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus. I'm not sure how to say his last name, so I'm going to leave it off because I don't want to butcher it. The conspiracy theory on him was he murdered or did he take his own life? It's still that to this day. And this is the oldest conspiracy theory that I could find. Hold on, I gotta turn TV down. I'm watching Men in Black with Chris Hemsworth, so I apologize for the noise. I just went through, was vacuuming and mopping. I wanted to get it done so I could sit down and do this. So bear with me. I have my tablet up so I can kind of refer back to notes, and then I have my notes. So Nero was born on December 15th, 37 AD, and he died on June 9th, 68 AD. He was the final emperor. He's a Roman emperor, but he was the final one of his dynasty. Pretty much he reigned as an emperor from 54 to 68, up to his death. There are people in this that I'm going to be speaking of as well. He was 30 years old, and apparently they said he died on the outskirts of Italy, Rome, Italy. Nero died on the anniversary of his late wife, Claudia Octavia. He was buried in the mausoleum of the Domiti, known today as Villa, or the Pincian Hill area of Rome. So apologize if I butchered that. I'm trying. The conspiracy theory, no one knows if he took his own life or if he died of a disease or if he was murdered. They're not sure. While he was in his reign, he did lose a lot of support. Governors rebelled against Nero. Governors were from the northern territories like Vindex. Even though Vindex was defeated, the governor of Spain got support from the army. There's a lot here, just so you have a heads up, so I will do my best to get through it all. The Senate looked at Nero as a public enemy, which meant he could be killed by anyone and there would be no punishment. So pretty much anyone in Vindex or anybody in Italy, Rome, anywhere area that he was located at, anybody could take him out and kill him without any repercussions. So, I mean, that sucks for him because now everybody's going to be hunting him. Nero was terrified that he was pretty much so scared that he fled to the countryside, so he could not be found. But in all of that wonderfulness for him of running, he did, when he ran to the countryside, he did find himself in a suburban villa. He still had a few loyal people. They were pretty much the slaves. So he had a few loyal slaves that stuck by his side to help him out and help him with running. The closer that they were coming to find him, they say that he committed suicide as the guards approached. So we are not sure how true that is. We don't even know if to this day if that's what happened, if he was murdered or he killed himself. It did say though that he did have help from his nurse, a nurse and a slave. So again, not sure how true it is. His last words before he did die was, "What an artist dies in me." It is said that he stabbed himself in the throat with a dagger. There was a centurion who tried to help stop the bleeding. Nero told the centurion that it was too late with saying, "This is loyalty." Okay, so a little background on Nero so we can kind of talk about him a little bit more. Again, his name is Nero, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus, Hopefully I said that correctly. But he was born, it's so weird because he goes by that long name, which is 5 different names, to Lucius Domitius and Henobarbus. Maybe I said that right, I have no clue. Because some of these names, again, they're like Greek names. They're, you know, I believe it's a Greek name. I apologize for assuming that it is. He was born at Antium in 37 AD to the son of, okay, so he went by Lucius. That was his actual name. Genius, Domitius, Ahenobarbus, again, sorry, and Agrippina the Younger, who was the great-granddaughter of the Emperor Augustus. Now, you're going to hear some funky things in this, so I will say it's like incest because of the time. And yes, we know it kind of still happens possibly to this day. Not going to make any accusations. When Nero was 3, his father had passed. By the time he turned 11, his mother did remarry. She married Emperor Claudius, who then adopted Nero as an heir. So, and then upon his stepfather's death, Claudius's death in 54 AD, he took reign as becoming the new emperor. Moms always have an influence, okay? They have some type of an influence on their children's lives. So while he was, you know, running as emperor and learning, he was advised by his mother, Agrippina, and his tutor, Seneca the Younger, and Praetorian Prefect Sextus, I'm not joking, this is the name, Afranius Burrus. But at some point he decided he wanted to rule independently and rid himself of restraining influences. So he wanted to do it all on his own. He didn't want any help or guide or anything like that. It became so bad that it became a power struggle between him and his mother, his own mom, who was doing nothing but trying to help him become successful, you know, as being an emperor. It was so bad that he actually orchestrated his mother's murder. You know, a woman who birthed you, a woman who is trying to sit here and help you make your life better and become a success as being an emperor, he orchestrated her murder. He wanted her gone. He felt that she was a restraining influence. He felt, I don't need your guidance. I know what I'm doing, and that's what I'm getting from that part of it. And then it says that he was implicated. It says Roman sources, they also said that he was the cause of his wife's death. So, and just so he could marry Poppaea Sabina and his stepbrother Britannicus. You heard that correct, and his stepbrother, and I will get more into that. Going back to learning a little bit more besides what's right, that's right there on my tablet. I mean, it was, I don't know what this dude was thinking. You know, I mean, he has his mother killed, and they're now accusing him of killing his wife. So his reign went from October 13th, 54 to June 9th, 68, which I've said. Let's go back. His predecessor was Claudius, was former Roman emperor. I don't know if I'm saying emperor, from 41 AD to 54 AD. His successor is Galba, was a Roman emperor from June 8th, 68 to the 15th, 69 AD. Okay, now we're going to kind of get into, I'm going to do a little bit more on my paper, what I have, and then I'll jump back to my tablet here. So he had different spouses. Claudia Octavia was the stepsister to Nero. Again, like I said, it's incest. So there's a little bit of that right now. Poppaea, and again, if I apologize if I am butchering these because I'm not sure how to pronounce the names. Poppaea Sabina was the second wife, would later be married to the future emperor Otho. Statilia Messalina was the third wife. Nothing on her came up as far as like who she might be related to, you know, who she might be married to next, not sure. Sporus was the slave boy who Nero castrated and married during his tour of Greece from 66 to 67. Now, the reason for him doing that was to have him play Poppaea Sabina. Not sure how she died either, during childbirth or after being assaulted by Nero. So there's that too. So they're accusing him, well, besides killing his mom, because it says he orchestrated that to happen. They're accusing him of killing his wife, Claudia Octavia, and then now they're saying that he possibly assaulted Sabina. We're just going to call her Sabina. Pythagoras was a freedman, allegedly married Nero, which the emperor took role as bride. And then Claudia Augusta, only child of Nero, died at 5 months, so she did not survive for very long. Nero was married to Sabina at the time. He was deeply in love with her to where he even divorced his previous wife for her. So he having fun, Mulan. He divorced Claudia Octavia to marry Sabina. By doing so, it caused him to lose a lot of political power. And remember, I was just saying, he lost support. So he lost support from the governors and anybody else that was helping him. He lost all of it because of this. I already talked about his dad dying when he was 3 and mom remarrying when he was 11. He did have support of the Praetorian Guard and Senate. Again, apologize for mispronouncing. That, again, you know, his mom and them, they tried to help him out with this, but again, he orchestrated her murder. Let's see, what else do I got? There's, like I said, there's a ton of stuff. He did have Nero did have contributions, I could say the words correctly. Nero's practical contributions to Rome's governance focused on diplomacy, trade, and culture. He did order for them to construct amphitheaters and promoted athletic games and contests. He himself even presented himself to the public and made appearances as an actor, poet, musician, and a charioteer. So the person like rides in the chariots when in the thing. Unfortunately, that scandalized his aristocratic contemporaries, as some of the occupations were usually done by the slaves, public entertainers, and infamous people. But he did get popular by doing these things among the lower class citizens. So there was people that, you know, they liked him. They liked him for the fact that he was doing these things. The costs involved were borne by local elites or, you know, taxation, pretty much like our government today, pretty much. But it was much resented by the Roman aristocracy. Can't even say that today. So during the time that Nero was reigning as the emperor, the general Corbulo, I could be saying it wrong, or Corbulo, fought the Roman-Parthian War of 58 to 63. And he also made peace with the Parthian Empire. He also, what is his name? General Paulinius. We're just going to call him Paulinius because the first name is kind of not easy to pronounce. Also squashed a major revolt in the Britain led by Queen Boadicea. Let's see. Bosporan Kingdom was briefly annexed to the empire, and the First Jewish-Roman War began. When the Roman Senate of Index rebelled, with the support of Galba, this is where Nero became the public enemy and condemned to death and absentia. At that time, it says that he fled to Rome, and on June 9th, he had committed suicide. His death did spark a brief civil war known as the Year of the Four Emperors. There's a lot of Roman sources that they're just saying overwhelmingly negative assessments of his personality and reign. Most contemporary sources describe him as tyrannical and self-indulgent, and they just didn't like him. They also thought, the Roman people thought he was compulsive and corrupt too, which I think anybody in reign of anything, it may not be that person that's corrupt, it could be something on the inside that's corrupt. But they believe that he was corrupt. They are saying that the Romans believe that, if anybody has heard of the Great Fire of Rome, they're saying that it was instigated by Nero to clear land and plan for his golden house. And it is literally in quotes. Nero seized Christians as scapegoats for the fire and had them burned alive, seemingly motivated not by public justice, but personal cruelty. I mean, to me, it's cruel to have your own mother killed when the woman's just trying to help you. Now, as far as the truth on if he killed his first wife, Claudia, or not, that's still up in the air. They don't know. Oh, what else do they have? Oh, historians question the relatability of ancient sources of Nero's tyrannical acts. Let's see, even though he had popularity with the Roman commoners. Again, they liked the fact that he was out there and being going out and being an actor, a poet, a musician, being in a chariot. So again, this is why, for me, this being the oldest conspiracy theory, I wanted to start here because I'd like to go down the line and see the conspiracy theories that are there. So nobody knows what happened to this man. Nobody knows. Did he kill himself? Did he kill his wife? Did he kill Claudia? Or did she die, did he kill Sabina? I mean, they're saying that she died from childbirth or he attacked her. So there's no, I don't know, conspiracy theories they're very interesting to me, of wanting to do the research and looking back on it and see what they've come up with. There was also a legend that was saying that he did not die and he would return. After his death, at least 3 leaders of short-lived failed rebellions presented themselves as Nero reborn to gain popular support. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just very funny that people are like, oh, okay, well, we're reborn, so we're going to say that we're this person reborn. We don't know. He was the only, so Nero was the only child of Domitius and Agrippina, Agrippina the younger. His mom was the sister of the third Roman emperor, Caligula. And again, I might be saying these all wrong, so I apologize. You can laugh at me in the comments. That's fine. He was also the great-great-grandson of former Emperor Augustus, descendant from Augustus' only daughter, Julia. Okay. Now this is into his early life. So I guess Suetonius, who was critical of Nero's ancestors, wrote that Augustus had reproached Nero's grandfather for his unseemly enjoyment of the violent gladiator games. And everybody knows back then, in the history back then, the gladiator games were horrible. And they were brutal, they were bloody, they literally fought to the death. So I can see why he's like, I don't like how you're doing this. I don't like how you're treating people and how this is going on. So yeah. He pretty much called him brutal, and that both enjoyed chariot races and theater performances to a degree not befitting their position. And Suetonius also mentions that Nero's father, Domitius, was congratulated by his friends for the birth of his son. He replied that any child born to him in Agrippina would have detestable nature and become a public danger. Well, let's see. Domitius died in 41 AD, years after his father's death. His father was involved, a few years before his father's death. It's saying that his father was involved in a serious political scandal. His mother had two surviving sisters, Agrippina and Julia. And then they were exiled to the remote island in the Mediterranean Sea. His mother was said to have been exiled for plotting to overthrow the emperor Caligula. Nero's inheritance was taken from him, and he was sent to live with his parental aunt, Domitia, the mother of late Emperor Claudius's third wife, Messalina. So there's a whole thing going on here with the family. After Caligula's death, Claudius became the new emperor. Nero's mother married Claudius in 49 AD, becoming his fourth wife. So Claudius obviously had four wives. In February 25th, 50 AD, Claudius was pressured to adopt Nero as his son, and giving him the new name of Nero Claudius Caesar Drusus. Well, that's a different name than what I got. That's not the name. It was Augustus. Claudius had gold coins issued to mark the adoption. Classic professor Josiah Osgood had written that coins, so this is a quote that Josiah had written, "The coins, through their distribution and imaginary alike, showed that a new leader was in the making." Okay, so somebody noted, David Schotter noted that even though the events that were going on in Rome, Nero's stepbrother, Britannicus, was prominent in provincial coinages during the early 50s. At the age of 13, 51 AD, Nero was formally in public eye. He entered the public life. at the age of 13. When he turned 16, he married Claudius, his stepsister, Claudius's daughter, Claudia Octavia. Between the years of 51 AD and 53, he gave several speeches on behalf of various communities, including the Lilians? Let's see. Oh, they were requesting a 5-year tax reprieve after an earthquake. So they were needing help with an earthquake. Hence why, today we have FEMA. Back then they didn't have that stuff. A northern colony of Bologna. I'm gonna say Bologna, but it's like Bologna or Bologna. Oh my lord, Bologna. But after their settlement had suffered a devastating fire, so there were 2 places that needed help. Hello, back again. Sorry, I got an interrupted phone call. Okay, so this is gonna have to be part 2 because I'm gonna have to do it in 2 parts. So Claudius died in 54 AD. They proclaimed that he was poisoned by Agrippina. And then Schotter had written, Claudius's death has usually been regarded as an event hastened by Agrippina due to signs that Claudius was showing a renewed affection for his natural son. So in other words, Agrippina didn't like that because they had a son together and she felt that he needed to show the appreciation to the son that they had. But then the Roman historian, pretty much like Joseph, was reserved, and he pretty much says that that's a rumor that she poisoned him. Okay, here's something different. Contemporary sources differ in their accounts of the poisoning. The poison maker the person that made the poison prepared the toxin, and then it was served to the emperor by his servant. So they're saying, and again, here we go, conspiracy theory, stories. Was he murdered? Was he not murdered? Did his wife poison him? Did she have somebody make the poison? There are 2 sides. There are 2 different stories. So, she had somebody else serve it to him instead of it being her to make it look like she had nothing to do with it. And apocalyptosis, Seneca the Younger does not mention mushrooms at all. So apparently it was a mushroom. But a lot of scholars and a lot of historians are saying that, Agrippina didn't have anything to do with it. Okay, so then before Claudius' death, Agrippina had maneuvered to have his son's tutors removed and replace them with the ones that she wanted to be the tutors for her son. She was also able to convince him to replace 2 prefects of the Praetorian Guard, who was suspected of supporting Claudius' son. And she saying here that pretty much what she did, she had replaced the guard officers with men loyal to her. So she wanted people in there that were going to be loyal to her and listen to her, but not only that, listen to her son and support her son in his reign as emperor in the time that he was there. So, and he was able to assume power without any problems after she did that. So pretty much his reign as emperor was bought. So yeah, that's... the main, let's see. So pretty much the stuff that he wanted built, the amphitheaters for games and things like that, they also felt that his projects were overly extravagant, like too much. It cost too much. And that their costs left Italy thoroughly exhausted by contributions of money, with provinces ruined. A lot of historians know that it was riddled with deflation and that Nero intended his spending on public work and charities to ease economic troubles. So he was trying, it sounds to me, he's trying to find ways to make money for the city, you know, to make sure that they were going to be okay. Again, Nero became emperor in 54 AD at the age of 16. He promised to follow Augustan model in his principate, to end all secret trials, to have done with the corruption of courts, favorites, freedmen, and above all, to respect the privileges of Senate and individual senators. And that was a quote from H.H. Scullard that he wrote. Nero made a speech also talking about eliminating the ills of the previous regime. His respect for senatorial, which distinguished him from the previous Caligula and Claudius, were generally received by the Roman Senate. And there also is saying in a rumor saying that Agrippina was meant to rule through her son. So her son was 16, he was the emperor, he was wanting to rule. So I can see why he wanted to get rid of people that were holding him back. You know, mom trying to rule through him. He couldn't pretty much do what he wanted. So that's why he didn't want the advice, you know, didn't want to be advised by anybody pretty much. He wanted to do it himself. He was the emperor. He felt he could do it himself. And then again, remember, Owen also states here that Agrippina murdered her political rivals. Domitia the Younger, which is the aunt of Nero, that Nero had lived with during Agrippina's exile. And then Marcus Junius, a great-grandson of Augustus. One of the earliest coins that Nero issued during his reign shows Agrippina on the coin's obverse side. Usually this would be reserved for the portrait of the emperor, but instead it had his mom on it. I mean, there's trying to find things that are so places that he had lived outside of Rome. He had several villas or palaces built. The ruins, you can go there and you can see them today. So they're outside on the outskirts of Rome. This included the villas of Nero at Antium, his birthplace, where he razed the villa on the site to rebuild it on a more massive and imperial scale, and including a theater. Lazio, near Rome, he had 3 artificial lakes built with waterfalls, bridges, walkways for the luxurious villa. He also stayed at the Villa of Nero in Olympia, Greece, during his participation at the Olympic Games of 67 AD. And Nero had, so for matricide, Nero had a former freedman, Anicites, arrange a shipwreck, which Agrippina managed to survive. She then swam ashore and was executed by this person who did the shipwreck, who reported her death as a suicide. So there's that. So now we know that he did have it to where she was actually supposed to die in a shipwreck, but when they found out she survived, that's when he went down and he executed her, but said, oh, she killed herself. And the reason having his mother killed is not fully understood. I mean, pretty much saying here, it was just saying a few minutes ago that she was trying to reign through her son. And my guess is he did not like that. So he was trying to figure out how to get rid of her. It also states that another thing could be that he had an affair with Sabina while he was with his first wife. So, oh, and they're also saying that Poppaea Sabina was also still married to Rufius Crispinius. We're just going to call him Rufius. But in the later work, she was also married. She was married to Otho when the affair began. His mom disagreed with his affair with Sabina, and was saying that you were with Octavia. That's who you're supposed to be with. That's who you're supposed to be. Your love and affection goes to this woman, not Sabina. She's married. You're having an affair with a married woman, and she was with Otho when the affair began. So come on, there's like a lot of marital affairs happening in this, and not only the incest, the marital affairs, just an overall shit pot. Put it that way. Sorry, I'm trying to read this and trying to. Oh, they're also trying to say that he did not marry Sabina until 62 AD. She seems to serve as a literary device utilized because they could not see any plausible explanation for Nero's conduct, and also incidentally served to show that Nero, like Claudius, he pretty much fell under a woman's spell. The love for her, he was so in love with her that he had to be with her. So he fell under her spell. The decline, pretty much there's the decline in him reigning as emperor. It was going really well before his mother was killed, or killed herself, as they were saying. He was doing really, really well. And then after that, and after having her killed, it went downhill from there. He began, he lost a lot of things. A lot. Oh, let's see. He declined. Okay, it began in 55 AD with the murder of his stepbrother Britannicus, but it also notes that Nero lost all sense of right and wrong and listened to flattery with total. Why are you going to listen to flattery? Flattery does no. After his mother's death, Griffin points out that Tactius makes explicit significance of his mother's removal for his conduct. It says here that he began to build a new palace in Domus from AD 60. I like saying 60 AD because it just makes more sense. It was intended to connect all imperial estates that have been acquired in various ways, linking the Palatine and the gardens of Massinius, something. Hordy and Hordy Laminine, these names. Unfortunately, in 62 AD, Nero's advisor Burrus died. The same year Nero called for the first treason trial of his reign against Anticius. He also executed his rivals Cornelius Sulla and Rebellius Claudius. Mullets believes that at that point it was, I guess, a good turning point in the relationship with the Roman Senate. And it could be a bad thing. He also states that Nero abandoned the restraint he had previously shown because he believed a course supporting the Senate promised to be less and less profitable. So apparently it was not a good thing because they lost profit and not very supporting. After Burrus's death, Nero appointed the two Praetorian prefects, Rufus and Ophonius. Politically isolated, Seneca was forced to retire. Nero divorced Octavia on grounds of infertility and banished her. After public protests over Octavia's exile, Nero accused her of adultery with Antidius, and she was executed. So there's another one. So now knowing that she was killed because he was trying to say that she was having an affair with someone else. But again, we don't know. In 64 AD, this is when they say that Nero had married a freedman, Pythagoras. And this was during Saturnalia. Then everybody knows about the Great Fire of Rome. It began the night, so it went from July 18th to the 19th in 64. They're saying that it could have happened to one of the merchants and shops on the slope of Aventine, overlooking the Circus Maximus, or in the wooden outer seated area of the circus itself. Rome had always been vulnerable to fires, and this one was fanned by catastrophic proportions by the winds. A modern archaeology described the destruction of mansions, ordinary residents, public buildings, and temples on the Aventine, Palatine, and Cillian hills. The fire burned 7 days before subsiding, and then it started again and burned for 3 more. It destroyed 3 of Rome's 14 districts and severely damaged 7 more. Some of the Romans thought the fire was an accident, as the merchant shops were timber framed and sold flammable goods. Understandable. Back in that day, I mean, they had a lot of stone and stuff, but a lot of the buildings probably were, timber, wood, all of that. And then having flammable goods inside a shop. The outer seating stands of the circus were timber built. Others claimed it was arson committed on Nero's behalf. The account of Pliny the Elder suggests that Cassius Dion suggests several possible reasons for Nero's alleged arson, including his creation of a real-life backdrop to the theatrical performance about burning of Troy. So somebody pretty much took that very seriously, and they decided to try to take out that little town. Let's see. Suetonius wrote that Nero started the fire. So they're saying Nero started the fire to clear the site for his planned golden house. Remember when I was saying a bit ago, that he was wanting to get rid of things to build his golden house. And now they're saying that it was Nero who started the fire and caused a fire so that could take place and that could happen. That would not only would it be his golden house, it would also include lush artificial landscapes and about a 30-meter tall statue of himself, Colossus of Nero. cited more or less where the Colosseum would eventually be built. They also claimed that Nero sang the Sack of Ilium in stage costume while the city burned. He played the lyre while Rome burned. It is at least partly a literary construction of Flavian propaganda, which looked askance on the abortive Neronian attempt to rewrite Augustan models of rule. But again, people are they're a little bit not sure if Nero's the one that actually did the fire. They have some they just don't know if he's the one that did it. One person actually suspends the judgment on the fact if he was responsible for the fire. It's at that time, the reason why they're saying they suspend the judgment on it is because Nero was not there. Nero was in Antium when the fire had started, returned to Rome to organize a relief effort, providing the removal of bodies and debris, which he paid for from his own funds. Again, back in that day, they don't have what we have today, which is FEMA, where money gets put into FEMA to be able to help with disaster relief. But then that's not being, some of that's been taken away from us. After the fire, Nero opened his palaces to provide shelter for the homeless and arranged for food supplies to be delivered in order to prevent starvation among the survivors. So that's pretty decent of him to do that. So to take it off of him, Nero was actually accusing Christians of doing it. That they were the ones that started that fire. According to the account, many Christians were arrested and brutally executed by being thrown to the beasts, crucified, and being burned alive. Tacitus asserts that in his imposition of such punishments, Nero was not motivated by a sense of justice, but by personal cruelty. Just to do it. Houses that were built after the fire, it was spaced out, built in brick, and they pretty much faced like the wide roads. Nero also built himself a new palace complex known as Domus in the area cleared by the fire. The cost to rebuild Rome was immense, requiring funds the state treasury did not have. To find necessary funds for reconstruction, Nero government increased taxation. So there's that. Besides him doing what he was doing, now they're saying that they had to raise the taxes. Hence, today, taxes get raised. Everything goes up. The cost of living goes up. So now they have to tax more and they have to raise prices on everything. Let's see. To meet at least a portion of the cost to rebuild Rome, Nero devalued the Rome currency, increasing inflationary pressure for the first time in the empire's history. Now I can say empire. In later years, a Roman statesman organized a conspiracy against Nero with the help of Flavius and Asper, a tribune and centurion of the Praetorian Guard. According to Tacitus, many conspirators wished to rescue the state from the emperor and restore the republic. Freedman Milicus discovered the conspiracy and reported it to Nero's secretary. As a result, the conspiracy failed and its members were executed, including Lucan, the poet. So, in other words, do not cross Nero, is what I am getting. Nero's previous advisor, Seneca, was accused by Natalis. He denied the charges, but was still ordered to commit suicide, as by this point he had fallen out of favor with Nero. Nero seems like a very cruel person that if you wrong him, he's just gonna have you killed. There's no jail time, no let you explain. I mean, even if you try, it sounds like even if you try to explain, he was not going to listen. He was not going to care. He wasn't going to believe it. They're saying in 65 AD, it has been said that Nero had kicked Sabina before she could give birth to his second child. Modern historians noting the probable bias and likely the absence of eyewitnesses to such an event propose that Sabina may have died after miscarriage or in childbirth, which that's what I had in my notes, that she may have died in childbirth. Nero went into a deep mourning. Sabina was given a state funeral and divine honors and was promised a temple for her cult. A year's importance of incense was burned at the funeral. Her body was not cremated, as would have been strictly customary, but embalmed after the Egyptian manner and entombed. It is not known where she has been laid to rest. Okay, so the boy that he had married and had him castrated to play, he said that he clearly resembled Sabina. So he had him castrated and married him, including a dowry and the bridal veil. They're saying that he did it because he regretted killing her. In March of 68, Julius Vindex, the governor of Lugdunensis, he rebelled against Nero's tax policies. Lucius Rufus, the governor of Germania Superia, was ordered to put down Vindex's rebellion in the attempt to gain support from outside his own province. Vindex called upon Galba, the governor, of Hispania, to join the rebellion and to declare himself emperor in opposite of an imposition to Nero. At the Battle of Vesontio in May of 68, the forces easily defeated those of Vindex and later committed suicide. A lot of suicide going on in this, and murder. However, after defeating the rebel, legions attempted to proclaim their own commander as emperor. Virginius refused to act against Nero, but the discontent of the legions of Germania and the continued opposition of Galba in Hispania did not bode well for him. While Nero retained some control of the situation, support for Galba increased despite his being officially declared public enemy. The prefect, the Praetorian Guard, Sabinius, also abandoned his allegiance to the emperor and came out in support of Galba. So again, this is where he's losing a lot of that support that he could have hung on to. In response, Nero fled Rome with the intention of going to port of Ostia, and from there to take fleet on one of the still loyal eastern provinces. Nero abandoned the idea when some army officers openly refused to obey his commands, responding to the line from Virgil's. It says, "It is so dreadful a thing than to die." Nero then toyed with the idea of fleeing to Parthia, throwing himself upon the mercy of Galba, or appealing to the people, begging them to pardon him for his past offenses. And if he could not soften their hearts, to entreat them at least to allow him the prefecture of Egypt. Let's see, found in Nero's writing desk, but that he not dare give it from fear of being torn to pieces before he could read the forum. And that was Suetonius who reported the text, that he had found it in Nero's desk, writing desk. After a bit, Nero returned to Rome and spent the evening in the palace. After sleeping, he awoke at about midnight to find the palace guard had left, dispatching messages to his friends' palace chambers for them to come. He received no answers. Upon going to their chambers personally, he found them all abandoned. They had disappeared. When he called for a gladiator or anyone else adept with the sword to kill him, no one appeared. He cried, "I have neither friend nor foe." So there's that famous saying, "I have neither friend nor foe." Heard that before. And ran out as if to throw himself into the Tiber. Returning, Nero saw a place where he could hide and collect his thoughts. An imperial freedman, Phaon, offered his villa it's 6.4 kilometers, but it's 4 miles outside the city. Traveling in disguise, Nero and 4 loyal freedmen, the name is the one that I have a hard time saying, Phaon, Neophytus, Sporus, and Epaphroditus, reached the villa, where Nero ordered them to dig a grave for him. At this time, Nero learned that the Senate had declared him a public enemy. Nero prepared himself for suicide, pacing up and down, muttering, "Qualius artifex perio," which meant, "What an artist the world is losing." So that's something different than what I found. Losing his nerve, he begged one of his companies to set an example by killing himself first. At last, the sound of approaching horsemen drove Nero to face the end. However, he could not bring himself to take his own life, but instead forced his private secretary to perform the task. When one of the horsemen entered and saw that Nero was dying, he attempted to stop the bleeding, but efforts to save Nero's life was unsuccessful. Nero's final words were, "Too late. This is fidelity." He died on June 9th, 68 AD, anniversary of his first wife, Claudia Octavia, and was buried in the mausoleum. No. Sorry, I had a picture and it got bigger. In what is now the Villa Borghese area of Rome. That's where they're saying they don't know if he took his life. So they don't know. Nobody knows if he actually did it or if his secretary did it. There's pretty much no proof of it. According to Suetonius and Dio, the people of Rome celebrated the death of Nero. Have a party. Decided that he's gone. Tactius, though, describes as more complicated political environment. Tactius mentions that Nero's death was welcomed by senators, nobility, and upper class. The lower class slaves, free quarters of the area and the theater, and those who were supported by famous successes of Nero, on the other hand, were upset by the news. Members of the military were said to have mixed feelings, as they had allegiance to Nero, but had been bribed to overthrow him. Things always come out in the end whenever things happen. You don't know what happens, you don't know who did what or why they did it, and then it comes out that they were bribed. Eastern sources mention that Nero's death was mourned as he restored the liberties of Hellas with a wisdom and moderation quite alien to his character, and that he held liberties in his hands and respected them. A lot of people, the general populace, was loyal to the end and beyond. For Ortho and Vitalis both thought it worthwhile to appeal to their nostalgia. So a lot of people in the Senate and more well-off individuals, they welcomed it. But the general public was like loyal to the end and beyond. Nero's name was erased from some monuments in what Edward Chaplin regards as an outburst of private zeal. Many portraits of Nero were reworked to present other figures. Over 50 such images survive. This reworks of images is often explained as part of the way in which the memory disgraced emperors were condemned. So pretty much they were erasing him throughout, but from what they're saying is at least 50 of them were saved. Chaplin doubts that the practice is necessarily negative and note that some continue to create images of Nero long after his death. Damaged portraits of Nero, often with hammer blows directly to the face, have been found in provinces of the Roman Empire. 3 recently have been identified from the United Kingdom. So it's spread. The civil war during the year of 4 emperors was described by ancient historians as a troubling period. It was instability. The instability was rooted in the fact that the emperors were no longer rely on perceived legitimacy of imperial bloodline as Nero and those before him could. Galba began his short reign with the execution of many of Nero's allies. One such notable enemy as Sabinus, who claimed to be the son of Emperor Caligula. Otho overthrew Galba, Otho was said to be liked by many soldiers because he had been a friend of Nero and resembled him somewhat in temperament. It is also said that the common Roman hailed Otho as Nero himself. Otho used Nero as a surname and erected many statues to Nero. Vitellius overthrew Otho. Vitellius began his reign with a large funeral for Nero, complete with songs written by Nero. So again, Nero was a musician. After Nero's death in AD 68, there was widespread belief, even up in the eastern provinces, he wasn't dead, that he would somehow return, that he never killed himself, no suicide, nobody helped him, nothing happened to him. Pretty much, I guess, believed that he went into hiding and didn't want to come back until after a certain time. Even after Nero's death and the belief that he did not die and they thought he would return, it lasted for hundreds of years after his death. Augustine of Hippo wrote a legend of the legend as a popular belief in AD 422 AD. At least 3 Nero impostors emerged leading rebellions. The first who sang and played the cithar or lyre, and whose face was similar to that of the dead emperor, appeared in 69 AD during the reign of Vitellius. After persuading some to recognize him, he was captured and executed. Sometime during the reign of Titus, from 79 to 81, another impostor appeared in Asia and sang the accompaniment of the lyre and looked like Nero, but he too was killed. 20 years after Nero's death, during the reign of Domitian, there was a third pretender. He was supported by the Parthians, who only reluctantly gave him up. And the matter almost came to war. Didn't say that he was killed, but they gave him up and it almost caused a war. So apparently he had a lot of people that really, really cared, for him as a person, as a human being, especially the lower class. So the uprising is the military conflicts. In Britannia, or Britain, in 59 AD, the leader of Iceni tribe and the client king of Rome during Claudius's reign had died. The client state arrangement was unlikely to survive following the death of Claudius. The will of the tribal king Prasutagus, leaving control of Ilse, I have no idea, to his daughters were denied. When the Roman procurator, some of these words, can't you all people use just regular words? Sorry. Scourged. So, okay, just to sum that sentence up. So, gosh darn it. Cactus Desanius, I don't know if I'm saying that right, probably not, went after, what is his name? The leader's wife and raped her daughters, and he went after him. They were joined by the Celtic tribe, and their uprising became the most significant provincial rebellion of the 1st century AD. Under the Queen, the towns of Colchester, what it's called now, London, and St. Albans were burned. As a substantial body of Roman legion infantry were eliminated. The governor of the province assembled his remaining forces and defeated the Britons, or the Britons. Although order was restored for some time, Nero considered abandoning the province. Julius replaced the former procurator and advised Nero to replace Paulinius, who continued to punish the population even after the rebellion was over. Nero decided to adopt a more lenient approach by appointing a new governor, Petronius. There's peace with Parthia. Nero began preparing for war in the early years of his reign after the Parthian king Vologeus set his brother on the Armenian throne. Around 57 AD and 58 AD, Domitius and his legions advanced on the Triadites, whatever they are, and captured the American capital. Oh, I'm sorry, Armenian capital. Don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to see this. As this war is going on at this time, Nero did continue to send further legions and troops to help defend Armenia and Syria from Parthia. The Roman victory came at a time when the Parthians were troubled by revolts. When this was dealt with, they were able to devote resources to the Armenian situation. The Roman army under Padius surrendered. God, I'm looking at the screen for too long here. Surrendered under humility circumstances, and though both Roman and Parthian forces withdrew from Armenia. It has been later told that let's see. Sorry, I've lost my spot. So there was an agreement that was reached after with the Parthians. Rome would recognize as a Tiridates as king of Armenia, only if he agreed to receive his diadem from Nero. A coronation ceremony was held in Italy, AD 66 AD. Dio reports that the king of Armenia had stated, "I have come to you, my God, worshiping you as Mithras." Schotter says that the divine designations that it was commonly applied to Nero in the East, including the new Apollo and the new sun. After coronation, friendly relations were established between Rome and the eastern kingdoms of Parthia and Armenia. So that was pretty much. Now, in 66, there was a Jewish revolt in Judea stemming from Greek and Jewish religions. In 67, Nero dispatched Vespasian to restore order. This revolt was eventually put down in 70 after Nero's death. This revolt is famous for Romans breaching the walls of Jerusalem and destroying the second temple of Jerusalem. So, I mean, I don't know what you all think. I don't know. The pursuits of Nero, he studied poetry, music, painting, and sculpture. He sang and played the sitar, a type of lyre. Many of these disciplines were standard education for the Roman elite, but Nero's devotion to music exceeded what was socially acceptable for a Roman of his class. Ancient sources were critical of Nero's emphasis on the arts, chariot racing, and athletics. They described Nero as an actor emperor, and that he was carried away by craze of popularity since he was acclaimed as the equal of Apollo in music and the sun in driving a chariot. He had planned the amulet and the exploits of Hercules as well. In 67 AD, he participated in the Olympics. He had bribed organizers to postpone the games for a year so he could participate. The artistic competitions were added to the athletic events. Nero won every contest in which he was a competitor. During the games, Nero sang and played his lyre on stage, acted in tragedies, and raced chariots. He won a 10-horse chariot race despite being thrown from the chariot and leaving the race. He was crowned on basis that he would have won if he would have completed the race. After he died a year later, his name was removed from the list of winners. Chaplin writes that the participation effectively stifled true competition. Nero seems to have been obviously oblivious of reality. So pretty much it sounds to me he probably bought his winnings. I mean, because it's like teaching kids today, oh, that's okay if you lose, let's give you a trophy. No, if you lose, you lose. It's, you try harder next time. You build them up and sit there and say, oh, we'll get them next time. We got next time. Don't worry, we'll do better. Nero established a Neronian Games in 60 AD, modeled on Greek-style games. Those games include musical, gymnastic, and equestrian contests. Oh, I probably said that wrong. The gymnastic contests were held in Septa area of the Campus Martis. So there's a lot going on with this dude. I mean, it sounds to me like he's done a lot. I don't know. It just sounds like he's done a lot. Yes, he did a lot of negative. He did a lot of, did some positive too. But it also sounds to me, I mean, he was thrown at the age of 16. He didn't really get to be a kid. He didn't get to live. He didn't get to do things. He took over at a young age, 16? Yeah, 16 years old, I believe, to take over a throne that he apparently was not ready for. No disrespect to him. Even now, people were writing condemning histories on, they had written Fabius, Rufus, and Pliny the Elder. They all wrote condemning histories on Nero that are now lost. They cannot find them. And then there were also pro-Nero histories. But it was unknown who wrote them and for what deeds Nero was praised. So nobody knows really what happened. So here's some people, let's see. So Cassius Dio was the son of Cassius, a Roman senator, Pronia, yeah. He passed the greater part of his life in public service. He was a senator under Commodius, a governor of Sumerian, after the death of Severus, and afterwards suffect consul around 205. Let's see, Dio. some of these names. There's another person on here from 40 to 120. Cassius Dio was from 155 to 229. Another person, just their first name was Dio. That's how I'm gonna leave it. A great philosopher and historian, wrote the Roman people were very happy with Nero and would have allowed him to rule indefinitely. They longed for his rule once he was gone and embraced impostors when they appeared. And this site, it says, indeed, the truth about this has not come out yet, even yet. For so far as the rest of his subjects were concerned, there was nothing to prevent his continuing to be emperor for all time, seeing that even now everybody wishes he were still alive. And the great majority do believe that he still is, although in a certain sense, he has died not once, but often along with those who have been firmly convinced that he was still alive. So, I mean, you've got your people that are naysayers and they are negative and all this fun jazz, but to me, he was not obviously a pleasant person. I mean, he was killing people. He wanted to reign, but he wanted to do it his way. He didn't want the help of people. He didn't want the help of others, you know, to sit here and take over. And that was apparently obvious. That was a fear of his, that somebody was going to take over and tell him, you know, tell him how to run things, and he was not going to go for that. So for me, again, it's up to you. Leave it in the comments below. Do you feel that he killed himself? Or do you feel that, did he kill himself? Did somebody kill him? Did he die of natural causes? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going on. But I will leave it at that. Again, leave your comment below of what you think. No judgment here if you think that he did not die and he did not kill himself, or if that somebody did do it. Be sure to give us a like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to our channel, J.A.M's Adventures. Also, have another channel as well. It is A&M History. You can also go over there and give us a like, share, and subscribe. We will be back with our lives on Monday over on that channel next week. So get ready and prepared for that. I believe for that one we are going to be talking about 9/11. And then I will come back here on next Thursday, and talk about the conspiracies of 9/11. Because people are saying that there were explosives at the bottom of the building. So it's like they knew it was going to happen. So we will dive deep into that. I'm going to have to start my research on some of that today, just so I can make sure it's good to go. So love you all. Thank you for following along and being on here. Like I said, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Give us thumbs up. Woo, thumbs up. We like thumbs ups. And we will continue to go this direction. Tell me what you think about me doing conspiracy theories and things like that, and also ghost stories. It is spooky season, so I will have to definitely come up with some spooky stories. So, all right, guys, love you all. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your work week, and have a good weekend. Until next Thursday. Bye-bye.